Alright, so how did I get into QA? Back in the day, I was packing boxes at Amazon, and I was doing that because it was the highest paying job I could get that paid me enough to not live at my parents' house. And, with the skills that I had at the time, which was mostly customer service and general labor, it was a pretty good deal. Even though I had to work overnights, 10-hour shifts, it was enough for me to save up to go back to my college town and put down a first month's rent on an apartment. So that was around the time I learned to code, or started learning to code, because I realized that this would be my future with my existing skill set, and I needed skills that paid more. And I didn't want to go into teaching because I didn't like classroom management, and that was the track I was on in college. I was majoring in Spanish education, and the only thing I could do with that, considering I had no vocabulary, knowledge, or experience for like a medical translator or other type of niche translation profession, was to go into high schools and teach Spanish. And I saw what that track looked like. Very slow pay raises. I'd have to be in at least 5 years to make like 60, 70, maybe 80, I don't know. Looking back, like in retrospect, like I forget what the numbers were that I was looking at the time, but I see friends who are currently teachers, and they don't make more than 80,000 even after being in that profession for 5 years, and I wanted to go faster than that. So coding seemed like a good skill to get me there faster. So fast forward a couple years, I went on free code camp and had learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I learned React. I built a few React apps. I was sitting cozy when it came to just making basic websites and web applications. So I thought, well, if I've been applying for jobs now for 2 years, I'm still working retail. This doesn't look like it's getting any better. So I kind of got strategic. I thought, okay, well, if I can't get in the door as a developer, what could I do to, get out of this situation, but get closer to being a developer? And I thought, well, tech companies need user support, like the help desk, where if you go into any mobile app on your phone and go to, settings, go to support, and they give you like an email form where you contact support with whatever issue you're having. Every tech company's got one of those teams, so I thought if I start there, I could probably prove myself competent enough to get some kind of engineering department role, maybe even like a developer intern or something. So that's the route I went there. I ended up, the first opportunity I applied to got back to me in a day, and I was hired in a week, not even, because they saw that I had development experience, they saw that I had customer service experience, and those go pretty well together when it comes to helping out users with an app, because you're able to find out by reading tickets what things might be actual issues, how to communicate those to developers. And yeah, so I started in customer support, emailing users for Fetch Rewards, a mobile app company. I think they're called Fetch now, but I ended up working in that department for 6 months until I heard about an opportunity to take a back-end engineering internship. The only qualification was I had to do a take-home test, and the project was something that looked a lot like what I built when I took a Node.js Udemy course by Mosh. By the way, he's a great instructor. I recommend taking his courses and looking at his content, Mosh Hamadani. But yeah, I just kind of referred back to that course when building the basic web service they asked for, and turned out to be good, like almost good enough. Like the algorithm they wanted me to implement, like I solved that. Like I solved the problem, but I was so green that I forgot the package.json file, which is responsible for allowing anyone who downloads your code to like install dependencies for that project so it actually runs on their computer. And I didn't know that I forgot that, so they were emailing me back and forth for like 3 hours, and eventually they just gave up on me, thinking, well, this guy doesn't know enough to realize what he did wrong, so I don't think he's ready. So they told me that I was really close, but I'm not quite ready yet, but they suggested I apply to QA. I didn't even know what QA was at this point, even though I was 6 months in at the company, and I was, frankly, very deeply immersed in tech Twitter, and yeah, I had never heard of quality assurance, and I think it's because there's a lot of flack quality assurance gets. My hair looks kind of funny. Because there's people who think that, oh, it's just going to be automated away, or like even QA automation engineers are going to be like cut if like the engineering side of the company has to make cuts because of like a bad economy or budget cuts or something, or that if you start in QA you can never become a developer because you get trapped. And I mean, I don't know, like I've kind of been on both sides of the table, and I've seen, like, I've heard a lot of stories from people from back in the day, but I've also heard some stories that suggest otherwise, that, you know, QA is a really lucrative career path, just like development is, and if it's something you're interested in, that you should just go for it. But, you know, just getting back to my story, I decided to go apply for QA, and I Googled around, found out QA is just software testing, and, you know, you don't have to write any code as a manual QA, which is what I was applying for. You just have to look at the features that developers write and then make sure that they look good and do what they're supposed to do and don't pose any risk to the product before signing off, and, you know, then the product ships. So, yeah. I met the QA boss and the very, very small team of like 4 people or 5 people who were there at the time back in 2020, and this was right before lockdown. But you know, I had the chat in person with my boss, who I honestly wouldn't see for another 1.5 years because of COVID. But the final interview with the whole team was on Zoom, which was really new to me at the time because, you know, remote work was completely new to me. And I guess the team thought I had enough potential to contribute, and they liked me as a person or whatever, and I went on to start my career as a QA. That was back in March 2020, and I've learned a lot since then. I've gone into QA automation, which essentially is just automating the testing that manual testers have to do a lot, and every single time a release comes up, so that you can save them time, which is amazing. That's my favorite part about QA automation. My job is to give the gift of time and to reduce stress and make their job more interesting. So yeah, I really like QA. And if you ever thought about going into QA, feel free to send me a message or something. Go follow me on Twitter. I talk a lot about QA as well as, you know, health and fitness stuff like I do on here, personal development, etc. But that's how I got to QA. It's a different path. Everyone's is different, but that one was mine. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday and start to your week tomorrow. And peace.